If you've ever seen any of the previous releases from the brand Anicorn, then you'll know that this video is going to be showing you a watch that's something a little bit different and very interesting. Hello, you're watching James. My name's James, you're watching me, and I am talking about watches. And this particular brand came to my attention first when they did a collaboration with video game designer Sega. They made a collaboration watch representing or sort of paying tribute to the Sega Genesis game console. And it was my go-to game system in the 80s and early 90s when I was playing video games. And it draws me back to me playing Sonic the Hedgehog 2. So when they reached out to me recently talking about their brand new release watch, I thought of that collaboration they'd done previously, and I thought, oh, this is going to be something very interesting and something very different. And that's exactly what this watch is. This is their new release, the Cassini Nemesis. And when they reached out to me, they said they'd love to supply a watch to me so I can share it with you guys. That is why you would have seen that sponsored icon pop up earlier in the video. And of course, I'm going to leave links directly to their website below. And when this watch did finally arrive, well, let me just show you this watch. And I think perhaps you might get a little bit of an understanding of what I'm experiencing in hand at the moment. And as I show you how this watch presents and how it arrived, let me just say this is the Anicorn Cassini Nemesis. They are 650 Australian dollars. They all contain a modified NH35 automatic movement. They have sapphire crystal, 50 meters of water resistance. And at the moment of me making this video, they are in a pre-order phase with a commencement date of shipping of August 2025. You can see that this is a all blacked out watch. Like every single part of this watch is blacked out. The case, the bracelet, the clasp, even the movement has been blacked out, but of course that dial is blacked out, and well, the hands are pretty much all blacked out too. And that is definitely the first thing that I saw as I picked up this watch. I knew it was an all black watch, but I didn't realize it was an all black watch. But then of course the case shape certainly stood out to me as well. This is a hexagonal style case, and it is specifically representing Saturn's hexagonal jet stream in its north pole. As you may or may not know, Cassini was the name of a spacecraft that has gone past Saturn, that has represented some or captured some images of Saturn, and this watch is linking into the space theme, which they've done before, this particular brand, but it's linking specifically to this spacecraft and its pass of Saturn. And because it is space themed, that's why I think this is all blacked out. And as you look at this watch, at that dial, and seeing the white text hidden behind some interesting elements, I think the white with the black, well, that's what we see when we look up at the night sky. So I think this is the theme they're going for. They're taking it after the Cassini spacecraft. So, well, this is a very space themed watch. And the majority of the text that you can see on the dial, when it's not obscured, and I'll talk about that in a second, is all printed on in white. Some of the text relates to the brand name and to the specific name of the watch itself and some specifications, but the rest relates to the wind speed and location of that hexagonal jet stream on Saturn. The numbers itself, all the way around the edge of the watch, the 1 through to 12, are actually a sandwich dial style. So they sit slightly below the main dial surface. And when you look closely, they have a very interesting shape. It's almost like a pixelated shape. Up on the Hruodland or the chapter ring of the watch itself, there is some more markings that dictate the minutes and the seconds, so you can actually then utilize that. However, this watch does not have a moving second hand, so there's not a huge amount of movement, but what you will see over the top of that dial is a very interesting and very different hour hand, because this hour hand is not just a hand, it is a interesting hexagonal disc with cutouts within it. So as it moves around, it shows off the text that is behind it and partially then obscures the text behind it. So it is a interesting feature. The hour tip hand itself, which has a little bit of loom on it, is an interesting circle which then encapsulates those numbers as it goes around. The minute hand is a little bit more standard, but it is skeletonized and it sticks out. And then there's this rather large, again, hexagonal cover to that center of those hands. So there is no seeing or specifically identifying the center of this watch so it looks almost like it's floating above the surface of the dial. When you turn the lights off, there is a little bit of a lume and you can actually tell the time of this watch in the dark. In fact, sometimes it's actually easier to read this one in the dark than it is in the daylight. However, realistically, even though there's an interesting sort of things going on top of this dial, it is actually quite a legible and easy watch to read. Now, all of that is covered by a hexagonal crystal. It is a single domed sapphire crystal, so you do get some interesting distortions at an angle. Now, the case of the watch is actually a very wearable size. That case is 41 millimeters. The height of the watch is a little bit tall, being 15 millimeters, but the lug to lug of the watch itself is 45.4. However, those integrated links of the bracelet do then make it stick out a little bit further, but still very wearable. The lug width of the watch is 20. However, when you look at the bracelet sticks out a little bit further, making it a little bit wider than 20. But the actual lug width is 20 and the weight of the watch is 148 grams. But because of those dimensions, it means it really sits down nicely and wears well on my 17 centimeter wrist. Being all black, this PVD style coating on the case, on the bracelet, and even on the clasp, it gives it that very soft feel. These types of coatings for me feel soft, and it gives a soft feeling on wrist as well. Overall, this watch is actually very comfortable because of the dimensions of the case, because of the weight distribution between the case and the bracelet, but also that coating makes it soft and therefore comfortable on wrist. The bracelet is all solid. It has those little H links. It tapers around the wrist really nicely, all the way down to that butterfly clasp. And it's interesting that that butterfly clasp is also all blacked out. When you look at the back of the watch, you'll see that NH35 movement, which of course has hacking and hand winding, is also blacked out. It's an interesting effect to have an all blacked out watch. I've seen watches with black cases before. I've seen watches with black bracelets before, but this is seeming to take it to a next level. And if you're going to consider buying one of these watches, of course, you are buying into the story, the design, and the link to this space mission that they've tried to connect this watch to. So I'm not really going to specifically mention anything about liking or disliking this watch. I've found that it is well made, it's comfortable. They've consistently added that theme to every element of this watch, but it then comes down to personal choice whether you like that story that they've attached to it. I'd love to hear whether you like it or what your thoughts about this one. Please leave me a comment in the description of this video. Thank you so much for watching. Here's a couple of other watch related videos. Maybe you can watch them next.